Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're delving into a mystery that has haunted Philadelphia for over 6 decades, the chilling case of the boy in the box. Grab your detective hats, because this is one story that will leave you with more questions than answers. In the chilling winter of February 1957, a college student, whose life was filled with textbooks and exams, stumbled upon a scene that would haunt him forever. Nestled among the barren trees in the secluded woods of Philadelphia lay an old bassinet box. But this was no ordinary discarded item, it was a makeshift coffin. Inside it was the lifeless body of a young boy, his face marred by the brutal beatings he had endured. His eyes, once filled with the innocence of youth, were now forever closed. The air was thick with the kind of silence that only accompanies tragedy. This was not just a discovery, it was the opening chapter of a mystery that would perplex the nation for decades to come. And so, with this gut-wrenching find, the case of the boy in the box was born, a case as haunting as the vacant stare of that young, unidentified soul. As soon as the police arrived, a heavy sense of dread settled over the scene. The officers, many of whom were parents themselves, couldn't help but see the face of their own child as they looked at the boy in the box. The atmosphere was thick with both urgency and despair. Who was this innocent soul, and how did he end up in such a forsaken state? The questions were many, but answers were painfully scarce. The investigators began their work, meticulously combing through every inch of the surrounding area, hoping to find any clue that could shed light on the boy's identity or the circumstances leading to his tragic end. They interviewed local residents, cross-referenced missing persons reports, and even consulted with experts in child abuse and trafficking. But each path they went down seemed to lead to another wall. It was as if the boy had materialized out of thin air, only to be cruelly snuffed out. The frustration among the police force was palpable. Each dead end wasn't just a setback. It felt like a betrayal to the memory of the boy who lay cold and unidentified. As days turned into weeks, the initial surge of adrenaline gave way to a disheartening realization. The investigation was stalling, mired in a labyrinth of complexities and uncertainties. And so, despite their best efforts, the police found themselves at a standstill, haunted by the face of a boy they could not identify and a crime they could not solve. Then, like a bolt from the blue, Martha walked into the police station. Her eyes were weary, as if she had seen too much for one lifetime. She claimed that the boy was brought into her life by her own mother, a woman whose cruelty knew no bounds. Martha's story was a harrowing tale of abuse and torment, a dark secret she had been carrying like a millstone around her neck. But what made the investigators sit up in their chairs was Martha's knowledge of specific details that had been kept from the public eye. She spoke of the boy's last meal, baked beans, a detail that eerily matched the autopsy report. She also mentioned that the boy had been bathed before his untimely demise, corroborating the coroner's observation of water-pruned fingers. For a moment, the room was thick with a mix of hope and skepticism. Could Martha be the key to solving this heart-wrenching mystery? Or was she an unreliable witness, her testimony tainted by her own troubled past and mental health struggles? The investigators were at a crossroads, torn between the tantalizing possibility of a breakthrough and the fear of yet another dead end. Martha's testimony was like a double-edged sword, potentially invaluable but fraught with risks. Just when you thought this case couldn't get any more bizarre, enter a psychic with an unsettlingly accurate vision. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill psychic. Their details were so precise, it sent shivers down the spines of even the most skeptical investigators. They described a foster home in such vivid detail that it was as if they had walked its halls. A home that was unsettlingly close to where the boy's lifeless body was discovered. Remington Bristow, a man whose job at the examiner's office usually involved paperwork and routine, felt a pull he couldn't ignore. Driven by a mix of curiosity and a desperate need for answers, he decided to follow this uncanny lead. Armed with a sense of purpose and a heavy heart, he found himself standing in front of the foster home the psychic had described. As he stepped inside, the atmosphere was thick with a sense of foreboding. And then he saw it, a bassinet that matched the description of the box in which the boy was found. As if that wasn't enough, he also discovered blankets similar to the one wrapped around the boy's fragile body. It was as though the universe was screaming for justice. But without concrete evidence against the foster parents, Bristow found himself at a legal standstill. His findings, as compelling as they were dismissed, leaving him in the case in a state of agonizing limbo. Imagine for a moment, standing in a place that you've only heard about through the words of a psychic, a place that's supposed to be a sanctuary for children but now feels like a house of secrets. This is exactly where Remington Bristow found himself. The air inside the foster home was thick, almost as if it was holding on to years of untold stories and unshed tears. As Bristow moved cautiously through the home, his eyes fell upon a bassinet. It wasn't just any bassinet. It was hauntingly similar to the box in which the boy had been found. Your heart would skip a beat in a moment like this, wouldn't it? Bristow certainly did. And as if the universe was playing some cruel joke, he also found blankets that were almost identical to the one that had shrouded the boy's battered body. It was like finding a missing puzzle piece, but not being able to place it where it belongs. The foster parents, who should have been the epitome of care and kindness, couldn't be implicated without concrete evidence. So, despite the chilling coincidences and the gut feeling that screamed this is it, the lead grew cold, as icy as the winter air of that fateful February when the boy was found. Time has a way of healing wounds, they say, but what about the wounds that never close? The case of the boy in the box is one such wound in the heart of Philadelphia, a scar on the collective conscience of a community that never forgot. As the calendar pages flipped and years turned into decades, the case didn't just grow cold, it froze over, encased in a layer of unanswered questions and unfulfilled hopes. Imagine the countless detectives who inherited this case file, each one probably thinking they'd be the one to finally crack it. But despite the leaps and bounds made in forensic science, despite the facial reconstructions that gave a face to this nameless boy, and despite the DNA tests that held the promise of revealing his identity, he remained an enigma. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? To think that somewhere out there, someone must have missed this boy, must have looked for him. Yet, he remains nameless, a young life reduced to a case number and a box of evidence. The advancements in technology that solved so many other cases seemed almost useless here, as if the universe itself had conspired to keep the boy's identity a secret. And so, the case grew colder, but never forgotten, always lurking in the background like a haunting melody you can't quite shake. Here we are, in an age where technology has advanced beyond our wildest dreams. We can map the human genome, reconstruct faces from mere bone fragments, and solve crimes that were once thought to be unsolvable. Yet, the boy in the box defies all these advancements, as if challenging us to keep looking, to keep questioning. Imagine the anticipation that filled the room when experts first applied facial reconstruction technology to this case. The air must have been thick with hope, the kind that makes your heart race. For the first time in decades, we could see him, this lost boy who had been reduced to a case file and haunting photographs. The reconstructed face was circulated far and wide, staring out from posters and computer screens, silently begging for recognition. But the silence persisted, and it's not like the authorities haven't tried. DNA tests, dental records, you name it, they've done it. Each test carried the weight of expectation, the hope that this would be the key to unlock the mystery. But each time, it was as if the boy himself resisted being found. His DNA revealing nothing, his dental records matching no missing person reports. It's a sobering moment, isn't it? When you realize that even with all our modern miracles, some mysteries refuse to be solved. The boy in the box remains an enigma, a poignant reminder of the limitations of even the most advanced technologies we have. Here we are, more than 6 decades later, and the questions still haunt us like a ghostly refrain. Who is this innocent soul, known only as the boy in the box? Why, in a world so interconnected, has no one stepped forward to say, I know him, he was mine? And perhaps the most disturbing question of all, who could look into the eyes of a child and commit such an unspeakable act? These questions hang in the air, almost palpable, like a fog that refuses to lift. They're the kind of questions that keep detectives up at night, that make us hug our loved ones a little tighter. They're the questions that remind us that for every mystery solved, another waits in the shadows, yearning to be brought into the light but remaining ever elusive. And so, the boy in the box continues to defy answers, as if locked in a time capsule of sorrow and injustice. As we wrap up this harrowing journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the gravity of this story. It's a grim testament to the reality that some mysteries are so deep, so complex, that they challenge the very essence of our understanding. They leave us with a void, an emptiness filled only by the tears of those who still seek the truth. But let's also remember that every story told, every question asked, keeps the memory of the boy in the box alive. It's a call to action for all of us, to be vigilant, to be compassionate, and to never stop seeking the truth. Thank you for joining me on this deeply unsettling yet important journey. May we all hold on to the hope that one day, the boy in the box will find the peace he so rightfully deserves. And may his story serve as a cautionary tale that propels us to act, to care, and to never forget. Be safe and see you in the next video.